So we've kind of gone through the ringer the last 24 hours, and it sounds like a boycott is in the works of the new NCAA football game with EA Sports. College Football Players Association, essentially, there's rumblings that they're not getting enough to have their name, image, and likeness featured in the game. That's some players. Not all players, that's some players.
The NCAA Football 23 video game is expected for a July 2023 launch date by EA Sports, and has many fans of the franchise excited for the latest installment in the last 10 years. The last NCAA football game came out in July 2013, EA's NCAA Football 14, and while it received mixed reviews, commercially the game became a success, as it sold over 1 million copies. Now, for the first time in the storied game franchise, gamers can play with some of their favorite college stars. Or maybe they won't. Hello everyone and welcome to No Huddle, where we discuss all things college football. And this video is dedicated to the ongoing discussion of NCAA players boycotting the latest game for what many believe is a meager payout by EA Sports. Yes, for the first time ever, fans of the NCAA football franchise established by EA Sports, fans can use actual players for gameplay purposes, with a name, image, and likeness deal struck between players and the NCAA. The game set to be released in 2023 will have actual player names instead of the generic RB number 15, QB number 13, and others like that. While it may hint at players like if someone played as USC and saw QB number 13 and think that is Caleb Williams, now it will be clearer. But before you get too excited, there is potential problem arising from all of this, and we will be discussing it here. The NCAA is discussing with its players to boycott the game in protest for the $500 players would be paid if they give EA Sports the rights to their names, image, and likeness. There is a lot to unpack here, so get ready as we tackle this issue together. Before we do, however, if you enjoy college football or like videos such as this, consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Now, let's break this down. In a report from Pete Nakos of On3.com, it was reported that EA budgeted around $5 million for players' names, image, and likeness, for short NIL. This results in $500 per player. The College Football Players Association Vice President Justin Fuccinelli encouraged players to boycott the game, seeing as the amount paid to players is too low. Fuccinelli said given the buzz the game is creating that the amount was a ridiculously low amount of money. After digging into the pay of NFL athletes get from the Madden franchise, in 2019 about $17,000, and for Madden NFL 23 about $28,000. The players will not receive any royalties from the sales of the game, which if this game is as good as previous iterations and the hype is true, should be north of $1 million in sales. Then you are looking at a staggering $60 million off sales alone. Now, let's get to the argument of $500 not being enough because some say players are being ungrateful, while some say the players are in the right. There are multiple angles we are going to approach for this. First, it's just going on the NIL deal alone, $500 off that. Is that enough for players? For some like Mississippi State QB Mike Wright, it is not about the money, but the memories made. This is perfectly okay, and if most players feel that way, then who is to blame them? This seems like a wholesome approach where anything is encouraged because what matters is just being a part of something you love in the video game community. In a YouTube video on the On3 channel, the point was made for most players, this will be the only NIL deal made in their career, while others like May and Williams are getting more elsewhere on the same NIL. Some argue that $500 for every player is a disservice to athletes like Drake May and Caleb Williams, both of whom garner way more attention than most of the others in this game. A valid point made where if this is the only opportunity to cash in on what you bring to college football, take it. While others who own other ways to capitalize off of NIL are not in an uproar about the $500. Is this a harsh way of looking at the $500? Possibly. A lot of college athletes in this game are not household names, and this money may be the only extra income they come across off of the NIL deal. Let's not forget years ago that this was not possible, and players were not compensated at all no matter how much level of success they had on the field. This is also shared by On3 founder CEO Sharon Terry, who said, "For so long, players were not able to receive $1 for having their image and likeness used. The $500 can go a long way and is a bonus. because the real value is being in the game for generations. For some athletes like Drake May and Caleb Williams, holding out could add up because their value to the game is obviously greater than $500. These athletes are still attending college, getting degrees, and living on full scholarships. Now you can argue injuries can ruin a player physically, scholarships can be taken away, and CTE is more widely known than previous years. You'd be correct on all of it, but any extra compensation used for whatever the athletes desire, and it may be the only extra income they receive, should be considered in this argument. The other side to this coin is the following argument. Some, like the CFBPA President Jason Stahl, feel that the $500 does not accurately the sacrifices made by the college athletes. In a newsletter, Stahl said, "You are not kids who should just be happy in a video game. You're hardworking adults who generate billions and billions and billions of dollars every year for conferences, colleges, and corporations. The real game and the video game happen because of your labors and sacrifices. You deserve just compensation for both, and I urge you to join the CFBPA today to make sure that bad deals like this don't happen to anyone in the future. This will be the only NIL deal made in their career." While others like May and Williams are getting more elsewhere on the same NIL. Stahl presents a compelling case, and YouTube personality Matt B. Great added onto this by arguing that athletes build a body of work, the years of training athletes go through, and the injuries that player accumulated over the same years of training and playing. With this hard work, they are rewarded with a football scholarship, but it is a reputation the athlete built. The players spent years of training and in turn built the name, the image, and the likeness. It is their body of work, and it took possibly 17 years at the minimum if they were one of the lucky people who graduated high school at 17. A lot of people would say they built their name, image, and likeness and it took 17 years to do so, then $500 is not enough. Something that has not received a lot of talk is the gap between NCAA football from EA Sports and just what has changed in the gaming community. We touched on it earlier, but players will not receive any royalties from this game. We projected $60 million alone based off of $60 for every copy and over 1 million copies sold. If NCAA Football 13 did it, with the buzz around this game, it is certain NCAA Football 23 can too. Now, there are multiple versions of the game. A $60 version, an upgraded version for $100, something that did not exist 10 years ago. Also, let's take a deeper dive into what college athletes could miss out on that game developers do now, so stick with this because this may not be a rabbit hole, but it is an interesting point. Developers are heavily focused on the online community of a game and content for it, whether it be downloadable content or just a plethora of modes that present a gamer with microtransactions. DLC, if anyone's familiar with Call of Duty and how every few months they come out with a new content package to keep the game fresh. It adds around 4 new maps and other things to keep players interested. This is something NCAA Football 23 can easily do, if EA decided that is a route that they want to go. And let's be honest, it probably will. Businesses like EA can take a game and turn it into a cash cow by pumping it full of DLC. Something like a bundle of classic teams like the USC Trojans with Reggie Bush. They may have to pay more for him to be in the game, but it could generate a ton of money. The NBA 2K series offers online play called My Team, where gamers build a lineup of players cards they accumulate in the game. So in NBA, Nikola Jokic, he may have multiple cards available, with certain attributes upgraded and better upgrades, usually emerald, sapphire, diamond, pink diamond, and other jewel colors. But the point is these cards all come out in packs, which gamers can buy with real money for a small fee. Hence the microtransactions can be used in NCAA Football 23 to get better versions of cards for players. An example, which may not be surprising, is a Drake May card. If he has a game where he balls out for 400 passing yards, 5 touchdowns, and just goes bonkers, EA can capitalize off of his performance and release a better card of Drake May in a series of packs some people will spend hundreds on for the chance to get. So the online aspect within the game and the money it generates, and it will be generated based solely off these players, won't go into their pockets. Another aspect is just how much games are streamed now. Gamers stream on Twitch, Discord, Facebook Gaming, YouTube, and more. Gaming personalities also build a huge following on these sites and generate a ton of money through the subscriptions and donations. That is all the personalities' income, and no argument there. EA won't see any of that money if people stream the new game. But the level of exposure to this game is exponentially more than games 10 years ago, when the last NCAA NCAA football game was released. With this evolved form of gaming that transpired in the 10 years NCAA football was absent, the royalties players won't receive could easily eclipse the $500 to each player and the $5 million budget for the NIL of each player. Let us know in the comments where you stand on the issue. Is $500 enough compensation? Do the players deserve royalties of any kind? Should online play and microtransactions be a part of any royalties to players? Let us know and be sure to check out more college football videos on No Huddle.